So good afternoon, everyone. Praise the Lord. Yes, God is good. Again, we want to welcome you so very much this afternoon as we go through this awareness, this very informative meeting. And I believe that at the end of this, you will have learned so many things. And there are so many questions that are going on, in where CBC is concerned. And I believe that at the end of this day, those questions will have been sorted. All right? So before we go on, let's pray. Lord, we are so grateful and we bless you for an opportunity as this. This is the day you have made us to rejoice and be glad in it. And everything you make is a good thing. So this is a beautiful day. This is a beautiful afternoon. And we want to thank you for the blessings of your word. We want to thank you for the blessings of information and knowledge. We are not perishing because knowledge is just about to come in. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for answers for life, answers in terms of education. And we want to thank you for blessing us with an opportunity to have our brother, Mr. Kaluli Nengo, this evening, as he gets to speak to us and bring revelation, knowledge, even bring light where this CBC is concerned. We want to thank you for it. Again, we thank you for our ears are blessed to hear, our eyes are blessed to see, and there will be no mysteries after this meeting. We thank you and we bless you for this in Jesus' name. So again, we welcome you. We so much welcome you for this awareness meeting. I believe that you will be impacted and you will have a lot of knowledge where this is concerned. I want to thank God for the blessing of Mr. Kaluli Nengo. He is well aware of what he is here to do. And there are so many things that he has been doing over the time. I want to let you know who he is. Mr. Kaluli Nengo is a senior management educator. He has a master's in distance education from the University of Nairobi. He holds a Bachelor of Education from KU and a certificate in Curriculum and Science Instruction from the University of the Philippines. He also has a certificate in Inquiry-Based Science Education from Malaysia, a certificate in ICT Integration in Teaching from African Virtual University, and also holds a certificate in Pre-Service Teacher Curriculum Knowledge Cooperation from a university in Japan. So he knows what he's coming here to do. Above all, he has been doing this awareness and training many institutions on behalf of government and on behalf of the KICD. So he knows what he's talking about. And all your questions, all the questions that you have, there is a code we're going to give you from Menti. And that code is going to allow you to post your question right there, and you will be able to answer. The question will be answered. So we will be looking at these questions ongoing as he keeps on going in his presentation. So without much further ado, I want to invite Mr. Kaluli Nengo to come and take over. Karibu sana.
Good afternoon. Yeah, as I've been introduced, Kaluli Nengo, that's a name from Western. In education, we normally say that the learners or the audience will listen to you depending on the extent to which they understand you. So what he said is about my education, and then additionally, I'm a Christian, born again, I also used to preach, but I reduced the preaching a little bit when I came to Nairobi. So we had a team running preaching sessions. We used to run weekend challenges in many schools in the Rift Valley and so on. I'm also a father of 5 adults, 3 boys who are already married, so I have about 4 grandchildren and 3 girls. So that is Nengo. And in addition to the other roles at KICD, I'm also the lead officer in charge of evaluation of curricula. There are many curricula other people are trying to offer. So now I'm the one who guides the teams that look at those curricula. Especially even around Garden Estate, there are also a number of curricula people are offering from around. So we look at them to see whether we can approve them or not. So I'm also the lead person guiding in the CBC on the issues of the teaching methods. Because CBC, one key major thing is about a shift in the teaching, the way we expect teachers to behave. So, in fact, starting tomorrow, we'll be training the college tutors on how we expect them to produce teachers and how we expect those teachers to teach our learners. So does that enable you understand me a little better? Enough to, so you think I have something to share, isn't it? Yes. So CBC has a lot, so I have very many slides for information. I believe maybe the church can also share with those who might want to go through in your own time. They are part of these slides, are part of what we are also using to train the education officers and the teachers and the teacher trainers. So briefly, what we'll be looking at is why the reforms, and then what are the 3 key pillars, the 3 pillars of CBC. We say it is competency-based curriculum. So what competences are we targeting? Then how is it organized, the CBC structure? Then what are the target outcomes for basic education mainly? And one of the key things we'll be looking at is the pertinent and contemporary issues to be addressed in the curriculum. So what are those pertinent and contemporary issues? Then one other key thing is about parental empowerment and engagement. You being parents, how do we expect you to be empowered and be engaged in the learning of your children? Then there's the component of community service learning. What is it? And how do you come in to play a role? And then values-based education is a key component of CBC. And we have learner support programs also as key, and implications therefore for parents, for guardians, and for the other stakeholders. Now, for the rationale for the reforms, there are a number of key areas, key issues that made these reforms necessary. We have the Vision 2030, whose provisions we cannot achieve without changing the way we do things. We have the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and the provisions in the Constitution, which we cannot meet if we continue teaching learners the same way we are teaching them. And internationally, we have the Sustainable Development Goal number 4 that talks about quality education, that We need, it's talking about quality education for everybody. So, and we cannot achieve that goal, number 4, if we continue teaching in the same way. And we had carried out a needs assessment in 2016 on the curriculum. And that needs assessment informed us that we need to change the way we are doing things if we need to get where we are supposed to get. And lastly, there is what you call the 21st century skills, the 21st century learning, which if we have to get there, then we also need to change the way we do things. So without going into too much details about each of these, just saying when we go into the provisions of all these, we discover that we need to change the what? We needed to change the curriculum and reform it to meet our needs. Added to that, what I forgot to put there is that internationally, curricula is supposed to be changed every 5 years, but we are taken close to, the last time it was changed was during Mackay when we got 844, 1985 there, and that was the last time we had a curriculum reform. Otherwise, in 2002, we just had something called a review of the curriculum. So already we had gone too far beyond what is expected. Okay. Now, therefore, for this curriculum, what do we have as our vision? When we look at whom do we want to produce, we are saying in this curriculum, the vision is we want to produce an engaged, empowered, and ethical citizen. So we are saying it should not be an observer. It should be what? Engaged. But he should not be engaged in ignorance. He should be empowered with the correct information, correct skills, correct values, and be what? Ethical. And as you know, in our country, the issue of ethics is a major issue. Sometimes you find fellas are engaged, but they are engaged while empowered with the wrong ethics, the wrong values, the wrong skills, and then we end up in wrong places. And to get this person, we are saying we need a visionary curriculum of world-class standards. We need excellent teaching, and we need excellent school environments, and proper resources. So you'll find that the curriculum we have produced, we have benchmarked it on what is happening in the rest of the world. We have not picked a curriculum and just come and impose, but we do a lot of benchmarking with the rest of what is taking place across the world. And we are trying to enhance the ability of teachers to teach in a better way, to move from lecturing to facilitating learning. And we are trying to enhance the environments for learning, both at school and at home. And in CBC, the environment at home is equally as important as the environment in school. Okay. So then, what is everybody concerned with this curriculum supposed to be doing? What is their mission? What is the mission of this curriculum? We are saying that the mission is nurturing every learner's potential. This comes from the realization that no two learners are the same. Even in a school, even when they are all in uniform, they are not the same. They are different. So we need the mission of everybody in education, therefore, is supposed to be to nurture that potential. So it is upon the parent, the teachers, to identify the potential of every learner, nurture that potential so that every learner can achieve to the extent possible. Because in every learner there is a what? A potential. Even the special needs learners, each of them has a potential that needs to be identified, then nurtured, so that they achieve to their best possible. So. Now, I had mentioned the 3 key pillars of the CBC. And the 3 are first values, and then we have guiding principles and the theoretical approaches. Values comes first in this curriculum, and we are saying the value of responsibility, the value of respect, excellence, care and compassion, understanding and tolerance, honesty and trustworthiness. Remember, this curriculum is being implemented in an environment where we have a challenge with values. And we need to agree that we have a challenge with what? Values. So, and that is why you see, these ones are also drawn from our constitution. And so we want responsible people, people who are respectful, people who do things in an excellent way, people who can care, who have care and compassion for others. They have understanding and tolerance for those even they may not agree with all. And then honest and trustworthy. And then the guiding principles, or what is believed to be true and correct and universal. The principle of opportunity, everybody to be given opportunity. The principle of excellence, that whatever you do it to the best of your ability. You have a situation where Kenyans, on average, even people you think have good money, when they build a house, they only finish it well to the extent you'll be able to see. But the side you don't see, they don't finish. True or false? Yeah? So just check our houses around. The side you see, that's the side that is finished. But the side you don't see, it is not done what? Finished. So you get into a house, then you discover you can't live in it. Yeah? Something like that. So we want excellence, everything they do. Diversity. That we are different and we cannot be uniform. So inclusion, nobody should feel excluded. Even by virtue of race, virtue of color, or ability, or by whatever means, everybody should feel included. Then the principle of parental empowerment and engagement, we'll be coming back to this. And the one of community service learning, where we are saying that we want to bring up people who understand that they are members of a community, they can learn from that community, and everything they should do, they should also do to benefit the what? The community, and not looking for opportunities to eat. Then differentiated curriculum and learning, where we are saying because learners are different, then subjecting them to the same curriculum, we are not being fair. So it can, that's why you find in this CBC, when it reaches somewhere, all along, you expose them to very many different areas, but as they go higher up, you discover that some are technical people, others are mathematics, others are language people, others are art, humanities, and so on. And all these people need to be catered for. So that is why you find now our curriculum at senior school is in 3 pathways to cater for the different categories of learners. So that is about principles. Then the third is about what experts are saying about education. What are psychologists saying? What are educationists saying about how learners learn well? So we have the instructional design theories. We have the social-cultural theories like those of Vygotsky. And we have Gardner's multiple intelligence theory and the Piaget's theory of cognitive development. Now, the instructional design theories say how you should design a curriculum, how you should design a lesson, how you should design an instruction. And the sociocultural theories say that learners learn a lot from the environment in which they are. And they learn more from what they interact with than what they are being told. And that is, it means whatever, it doesn't matter what you are telling them at home. What matters most is what environment are they interacting with. So it means adjusting the environment to enable the kind of learning you want to take place. Then the Gardner's multiple intelligence theory talks about the different intelligences that we have. What is an intelligence? Have you ever said that this child is intelligent? What is on your mind when you say this one is more intelligent? Is intelligent? Yes. Yes. When they are competent in a certain area, that is correct. Intelligence has to do with the way we solve our problems. So you'll find the fellas like politicians will solve their problems from talking, can convince you, and even when they have never finished, they never finished school, but you'll still vote them in as your governor, isn't it? So they have that verbal intelligence, interpersonal intelligence. Others have a mathematical, logical intelligence, so they tend to be good in mathematics. Others are linguistic intelligence, they are good in languages. Others have a spatial intelligence, they can tell which is east, west, north, can point to you which direction is KICC from here. Others won't be able to point it from this. So they have spatial intelligence. Others have musical intelligence. They are very good. Huh? And others have bodily kinesthetic intelligence. They can solve their problems through football or athletics and such like things. So we are saying we need to cater for all these people. But what has been happening in the current education is that we think everybody should be academic, intelligent, and so we rank them depending on how many marks they have. But only to discover that by the end of the day, when the real life comes testing, you find these are the same guys who got A's. But when they want a job, they look for the fella who got a D to connect them to the one who got a B to get a job. True or false? So then, like Piaget's theory of cognitive development tells you what can a learner do at what stage. Or we have a situation where some schools are telling preschool children, they subject them to tests to see whether you can join grade 1. So we have schools that interview children like that, isn't it? Yes. But we even have So what can a child do at what age? So the core competencies we have, and why we call it competency-based curriculum, we have 7 core competencies that we try that feature in the CBC curriculum right from preschool. We have communication and collaboration, critical thinking and problem solving, imagination and creativity, citizenship, digital literacy, learning to learn, and self-efficacy. So these are the 7 core competences which are applied at each level depending on the capacity of the learners. So for communication and collaboration, we are saying that these learners should be able to interpret, express themselves through a variety of media. So verbally, in written, using technology, should be able to communicate and work with other people using these different media. So it is also applied differently depending on the level. So at one level you are told, for example, students are supposed to develop strong verbal and interactive skills, or engage collaborative and teamwork activities. But as you move up, you'll find the communication and collaboration expected also changes. Till finally they are supposed to maybe to work on the same project with others from across the what? The world as part of this competence. Yeah. At critical thinking and problem solving, we are saying that they should be able to analyze and evaluate evidence, arguments, ideas using various types of reasoning and system thinking. The competence of critical thinking and problem solving is a challenge for us. In Kenya, for instance, is the country where fellas are getting conned left, right, and center, isn't it? You hear of green something, you hear of almost, there was a time almost everybody was in some betting of one kind or another. Anytime you walk across the road, you see some people advertising that they are able to cure lost items will be found, court cases will be won. And those are the critical thinkers we have. Do they make enough money, those guys? Do you think they make money? You've seen the adverts, isn't it? Where somebody can cure or bring a wife who has run away, court case, male power and woman power. Yes, isn't it? It will always be that one where you can't go to hospital. So they are the critical thinkers, and they make a lot of money. So we want children to start thinking critically very early, and to be open-minded, to listen to others' perspectives, and so on. Then creativity and imagination. We want learners to demonstrate openness to new experiences, engage in creative processes, generate and apply new ideas, and appreciate the imagination work of others. You know, what has been happening in schools recently, of late, is that the children go to school maybe at 6, and they leave at 8 in the evening. And throughout all that time, there'll be a teacher in their class. These guys have no independence to think or to imagine anything. They are either listening to the teacher or doing an exam or doing, so they don't even, and they have lost creativity. Okay. Citizenship, we are talking about somebody who is able to contribute to the quality and sustainability of their communities, environment, and society. A good citizen. You want to contribute to your home, to your school, to your church, to your country, in a sustainable way. This one is also lacking. We have a situation where Kenyans will tithe, they'll pray, they will, because they want to get a green card to run away from their what? Their country, isn't it? And every time they remind God, I'm tithing and praying and fasting because I want a green card to go to where? Yes. So you find them lining up in other people's embassies for months and months and wondering why God is not answering their prayer to run away from home. So, the digital literacy, can see the way the country is trying hard to introduce, the government trying to introduce the use of technology early, so that learners can learn early how to use it appropriately. So, tablets, computers, you know, when the learners are trained early on how to use these things, then you don't get worried that they'll misbehave when they are on their own with them. So we want them to understand this. And the way, like for young children, it might just be using it to play games. But as they advance, now they can go into coding. Then they can go into design and programming and so on. Okay. Learning to learn is about the realization that you cannot have all the knowledge you need today. And you can't teach learners everything. But you can teach them how to find out what they need to find out. So it is more important to teach people how to find out information than to teach them everything there is to know, which is not possible, isn't it? Yes. The other day I saw a clip going around with a young child who could tell you the governor of Machakos, Alfred Mutua, the governor of Kakamega, Wycliffe Oparanya, the governor of Wasingishu, Mandagor. All the 47, the child sings all of them, isn't it? Yes? But if you change the question and you ask the child, who is Alfred Mutua? Then the child gets stuck. But the child is able to say, the governor of Machakos is Alfred Mutua. But when you change, who is Alfred Mutua? Now that is outside the what? The syllabus. Have you heard teachers saying that the exam was set from outside the syllabus? Yes. So, learning to learn. So you'll find that in CBC, the content to be covered has been reduced. Instead, there are more activities on learners to go and find out. So you'll find learners are not being given tests and assignments to come and do at home, but they'll come with questions to find out. For example, if I have taught them in school that the brother to your mother is your uncle. And so now we send the child home and say, go and find out from your mom who are these brothers of hers so that you get to know. So it's no longer just a statement about your brothers and sisters are your siblings. Now you come home and find out, now who are these siblings? It is John, it is Joseph, it is Mary. Attach meaning to it. So it's not that parents are now being converted into what? Into teachers. But the parents are putting the learning in perspective. So, then self-efficacy. We are saying that learners should become aware of themselves, their strengths, their weaknesses, and become self-directed and feel that they are able, so that they can set and pursue their goals. Remember, the extent of goals we set for ourselves depends on our self-image, isn't it? If we feel small, we set very small goals. But we want learners to understand themselves that I'm good in music, in science, or in mathematics, and this is what I can do with what I'm good at, without feeling that they compare themselves to each other. You have seen schools have a habit of pinning results from number 1 to last on the notice board, isn't it? Yes? Now that is going to be a thing of the what? The past. Because when you do that, the one who is first feels very good, and the parents feel very good, isn't it? But the child who is last, how does the child feel? So you'll find, those of us who grew up through primary school, sometimes you do mathematics and you get 30%. Or occasionally you would get a 0. So the teacher puts a 0, naweka masikio, naweka macho, sema mjinga sana. Okay. So we are saying, and everything possible should be done to make children feel that they are able. It is for you to find out what that child can do and facilitate that child bring it out, isn't it? Yes. And for those of us who have taught for a long time, and I'm one of them, we have come across these cases where this girl was just almost last most of the time. But akishika keyboard, the whole church does one. And the people get saved and come in front here. But a primary school teacher was asking the sister, where is that stupid sister of yours who cannot get even 20 marks in my... But eventually now, the girl did her master's in music, and now they say, they refer to the sister who was getting very high marks as the sister to so and so. Are you getting it? Yes. Okay. So then, what are our paradigm shifts? What are the major shifts we have? One key shift is less focus on content and theory to more focus on abilities and competencies. So we don't want children cramming too many things, so all they need to do to pass is to read and read and read, but to be able to do. So it's about what are you able to do with the knowledge you have. So less of rigid and prescriptive curriculum with limited flexibility. Because the current curriculum, you think everybody must pass mathematics. Even us, we were told you do mathematics and science. But on average, the people who did mathematics and science are answerable to the ones who did history and geography and arts. True or false? Huh? But so we are saying all these things matter. So we need flexibility with opportunities for specialization. So we are opening up so that we don't look down upon children who are artistic, children who are technical, so on. We are moving less of focus on summative assessment and competition. Summative is the assessment that comes at the end. The KCPE, the KCSE. So we moving away from focus on that exam to a balance between formative. Formative is as they form assessment. So a lot of assessment that is done in the classroom will matter a lot. So that you are not determining the life of a child on the basis of KCPE or KCSE. KCPE, which is done in 3 days, when a girl might be in her periods and not feeling very, very good, isn't it? Yes, and then you say because you failed KCPE, then you are very what? That's where you belong. We are emphasizing less on just attending school to more on what are you getting from school. Emphasizing less on the teacher teaching. The teacher is permanently in front of the children to what is the learner getting. So that is what we are trying to do, to create more teachers, create them as facilitators. And this is the basic structure where the first 5 years, 2 pre-primary and 3 lower primary, they make up the early years education. Then the upper primary and the junior secondary, they make up middle school. Then we go to the senior secondary there, which is now in 3 pathways. The arts and sports science pathway, the social sciences pathway, and the STEM. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we are accepting that, so at the equivalent of Form 2, children can either go into arts and sports science, social sciences, or science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So then from there, they can go to the university. This categorization has not been there. Where, in fact, when results are released, normally you hear that now these ones will go to the university, and the ones who got less will go to the technical training institutes. No, we are saying there are children who just want to produce these gadgets, to produce these computers, and to produce the vehicles we drive here. Those are not university graduates. Those are technical people, isn't it? But we look down upon them. So if a child wanted to just go and build a vehicle, we tell him it is better you go and get a degree in science. Then they graduate and start looking for a what? For a job. Okay. Now, there is also the component of special needs. Special needs. For this regular one, the progression is age-based. But for special needs, it is stage-based. Because in special needs, there are cases where a child can be 10 years, but mentally they are about 4 years old, isn't it? So so it goes by stage. But there is supposed to be assessment in between. See, if a child is in preschool and is not doing well, or you don't think maybe they have a challenge, they go for an assessment to see whether they need to go to a special school. And if they are in special school, they might improve, and from an assessment, they can come back to what? The regular school. So sometimes parents resist taking their children for assessment in order to place them appropriately, because every parent wants, first, the major struggle, the biggest struggle is every parent wants a child of their own, isn't it? After you get a child of your own, you think the child should be the what? The best. And when is not doing very well, you still don't feel you should take them for assessment. But assessment is now key in this system to get children to special, back to regular, depending on their need. So in each of the levels I've shown you, like the early years education, we have what we call the outcomes that we expect, the abilities we expect these learners to have. So these ones I'll not go into the details, but you can see one is about being able to communicate, demonstrate basic literacy, apply digital literacy, apply creative critical thinking skills, practice hygiene, hygiene, proper sanitation, safety. You saw, like last time, grade 3 went cleaning a marketplace, isn't it? It was not, they were not supposed to clean a market in the sense that they would make it clean. They were just supposed to learn. They learn about hygiene and keeping the environment clean. So what processes do you go through? So how do you prepare for cleaning? How do you dress before you clean? Then how do you treat that you have cleaned? So those are the processes. And when they were just to go to a market, and they contextualize it like that. So it's not like, okay. So those are part of the outcomes. So practice appropriate etiquette, explore the environment, and then we have demonstrate acquisition of emotional, physical, spiritual, aesthetic, and moral development. So if you are like Mumia, who says there is no God, you cannot teach in our school, isn't it? Yes? Because we want to produce people who are spiritually applied. Demonstrate appreciation of the country and its rich, diverse, and cultural heritage. Exhibit appropriate organizational skills. Okay. So these are the subject learning areas for pre-primary. Pre-primary, we don't call them subjects. We call them activities, because these people are just playing. So they have mathematics, mathematical activities. They have psychomotor, environmental, language activities, religious, education activities. So we are not teaching them religion. But then lower primary, now they are expanded a little. That lower primary is grade 1 to 3. We can. So these are learning outcomes for middle school. You can look at them later. For upper primary, we have those subjects, that is grade 4 to 6, upper primary, those are the subjects. Then for lower secondary, those are the subject, but maybe move a little. Now, back. Yeah, here. You can see here, these are optional subjects. You can see among them, these are at junior secondary. Junior secondary is now the equivalent of what was standard 7, 8, and then form 1. So these subjects they can pick from. Can do a foreign language, German, French, Chinese, Arabic. They can also do Kenya Sign Language, especially for those who can't speak. Then Indigenous Languages. We are saying that a child can decide to learn Kidholuo, or to learn Kikuyu, or to learn Luhya, so long as the teachers are there, so that we don't feel guilty about our languages, and as part of interaction and so on. So our indigenous languages are part of this. And one of, Professor Igara Kabaji is one of our panelists on the issue of languages and indigenous languages as well. Okay. Then at senior school, you can see how it is differentiated. You remember after the 3 categories, arts and sports, social sciences, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, you also find that each one of them has different areas that learners can go for. So the fellow who is in arts and sports can go for sports or performing arts or visual arts. Social sciences can go for languages or humanities. The science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, one learner may go for pure sciences, another for applied, another for technical and engineering, and another one for careers and technology studies. So for these ones, the curricula we have not yet developed, we are still working on them. So now you see, from just learners being categorized in one group, now we have very many different categories, and we want learners to go to their specialized areas without feeling guilty. Okay. Senior secondary, those are just learning outcomes. For each level, they are learning outcomes. Okay. Now, at senior secondary, there are two subjects that are core. Called one, community service learning, which includes life skills, citizenship, entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and research, where is a subject learning area where the learners must show how are they contributing to community service learning. We'll come back to this, where I said in community service learning, you want them to realize they are members of a what? Community. And they should benefit in terms of learning from the community, and the community should benefit from what they do. So you don't look at your community as where you want to eat from. So the first thing you ask is, what is in it for? For me. Then the physical education is core, because most of our issues come from being physically unfit. But COVID at least has woken up people to physical exercise, isn't it? Yes? It's good. So physical education. Then we have talked about special needs education, I think. Just move. The special needs education is in very many different categories, but the curricula have been prepared for all this. So a child who is in special needs, whatever the special needs they have, we have curricula that can assist those children. So if you have a special needs child, don't lock him inside the house, okay? Let the child come out and let the child benefit and okay. Now, we are saying that in life, there are these issues that keep coming up that face children, that face society, and we want children to be able to handle these issues well. So CBC is supposed to equip learners to be able to manage these issues we are calling pertinent and contemporary issues. We are trying to see, in training the learners, that are they able to handle issues that come with life. So we have issues of peace education, integrity, ethnic and racial relations, social cohesion, patriotism and good governance, child rights, child care and protection, then health-related issues such as HIV and AIDS, alcohol and substance abuse, lifestyle diseases, personal hygiene, communicable and chronic diseases like COVID just came. So we had to adjust very fast, isn't it? Yes. Then the issue of life skills, then human sexuality. And human sexuality, we are not teaching them sexuality, but we are just saying there are emerging issues where now sex is no longer taking the place it used to take as instead now people are looking at it the way you look at the Super League, football, and things like that. To the extent that now fellas are dying from using the blue pill, those blue pills and so on. Environmental education, disaster risk reduction, safety and security education, gender and animal welfare education. So these are key issues like safety and security education. For instance, you know, when terrorists come, if they enter there, they'll come shooting. They don't give you time to react, isn't it? Yes? But nobody has a right to end your life before its time. So every learner should have some capacity for aggressive violence, isn't it? Defensive. Because otherwise you saw what happened in Garissa. Yeah. You don't pray for a fella who is shooting you, no? You fight, isn't it? Huh? Yes. So we want them to be able to handle these things. Okay. So you find in CBC, then we are teaching this in the formal curriculum, where I come to class and teach you about good health, or informally, like in clubs and games, or informally in the kind of environment I create around, so that the informal is very important in CBC, where you are saying, even if you are not saying anything, you are in this church, you see it is very neat, arranged very well. Eventually, when I go to my house, I'll want my house to look neat and organized. I have learned without anybody talking to me. So in your home, you don't need to tell children not to smoke, not to drink, not to be chaotic. The best way to keep a house organized is to keep it what? Organized, isn't it? Yes. Okay. Now here, the parental empowerment and engagement, we are saying that if what parents say and what teachers say are in line, in agreement, then it contributes to the well-being of the child. The parents are an integral part of the child coming up. It is only in Africa and the Africans who go lock their children in boarding schools and see them once in when the school decides. True or false? If it is not visiting day, you go there, you are told, mzazi leo sio visiting day. Come another day. But the Asians, the whites, everybody else, they must see their children every day. So what has happened is we have disconnected ourselves from our children. It is this COVID that woke up to that, people up to that fact, that parents do not know their what? Their children. So when we went researching 2 weeks ago, we get to schools now. You know, the time the children get into when they are getting into adolescence and so on, they must be with their parents as much as possible. Then when you hear CBC saying as many as possible schools should be day schools. And if you can stay with your child at home, I ended day school, that is much the better. Okay. So we are saying, we are looking at education as a triangle with the learners, the school, and the parents. So if all those are working together in unity, that's when the child succeeds. And that is how the parental engagement and empowerment comes in. Parental engagement and empowerment has two pillars. The first one is the empowerment itself, and then engagement. At this pillar one, empowerment means that you want the parents to be strong and more confident in performing their roles as parents. They are not confident. Even the time they come home for holiday, the parents send them for tuition, you know. And that empowerment is through the correct knowledge. What should you do with your children? The correct skills, how do you do it? And the correct attitudes and practices that support holistic development of the child. For instance, if you are a parent, you do not convert fellas by what you say. It is what you do that does what? Matters. Because it doesn't matter how much you talk. What is understood is what you are doing. That is CBC saying. So we want to train the parents, advocacy like what I'm doing here, sensitizing you, and maybe having resource persons talk to you. Parenting is not very simple. When we grew up, we were children to every elder in the community, and everybody would discipline us. This time, so long as the child knows dad is far away, they don't care who else is around, isn't it? Yeah? Yes. So we want the parents to understand their roles. Okay. Now, engagement means now actually taking part in the child's development and the child's learning. So you need to be part of the decision making in the schools. Need to keep in touch with the school. Yeah. Keep in touch with what is going on. Contribute to the development that is taking place. And even volunteering. Like when I was in Japan and some place, we went to a primary school, and that time there was a retired geologist who had come to the primary school to talk to the children. The geologist was from that community. So he was talking to the children about the soils in their community. So, but in Kenya, parents saying, we don't do that. So unless maybe I just call a lawyer to come and talk to the children of Form 4 and so on. But you'll find that there are parents with the information and the skills, and they can offer that information to children. For instance, I'm a biology teacher, and I knew, even with my degrees in biology, when it came to teaching them about sexually transmitted diseases, and if you are teaching to convert, when you call the nurse from the hospital to come and talk to these fellas in your absence, you end up with a more converted group than that. True or false? Yes? Yes. So you can contribute. Okay. Then the next is values-based education. We said we are concentrating a lot on values. So you'll find that even when the teacher is teaching maths, you'll teach about values. So you cannot, suppose you came across a question that was reading that Njuguna and Kamau's house is 100 meters from Barclays Bank. Now, Njuguna and Kamau want to dig a hole under from their house to the bank. If they are digging the hole 2 meters per day, how many days will it take them to reach there? What do you think? How many of you are teachers? Yes. What do you think about such a question, madam? Yes?
It's not the right way to ask a question.
Yeah, it's a wrong question, okay? We are saying everything we teach, we must teach it in a value-based manner. So you can talk about, let's say, Kamau, Odwar, and Wafula who are working on a project. Yes? Already, you see now you are bringing them together and so on. And values-based. So, or when you are dealing with mathematics, you must see value, them using their results and so on. So in everything we teach, it must be attached to proper values. Okay. So we want, when we bring up values, we want to enable learners to develop secure sense of their personal identity, demonstrate cultural, moral, religious consciousness, demonstrate empathy and respect for others, practice ethical behavior, apply critical thinking, and demonstrate stewardship of resources and environment for sustainable development. You know, this last point, almost everybody, wherever they get, if they get something, they'll steal, isn't it? But we want to bring up people who can take care of our resources, who can manage our resources better. So we want to bring them up with values. And we want every teacher, every time they're in class, they are delivering on good values. Okay. It's the same, basically. Now, the guiding principles to values-based education. And remember, this is where Kenya has problems. We have enough resources. Even Kibaki showed us we have enough resources, isn't it? And we developed very hard. But because of our value systems, we have problems. We are saying a whole school approach. The children learn a lot from everybody, including the security guard, including the cook, including the watchman. So it is the whole school approach. Everybody must agree that this is where we are taking our children. So it's not the teacher alone. And we are saying it is supposed to be mainstreamed in what we teach them in class, the formal, and in the environment in which they are, and in clubs, in societies, the non-formal, and the way we teach them, the materials they use in co-curricular activities. So you don't cheat that they have scored a goal when they have not scored in the field, isn't it? So you know, sometimes it has to be value-based if it is values. So the school policies should also be in line with the proper values. Then we are saying holistic approach, that you look at the whole person, the physical person, the spiritual person, the social person, intellectual person, and the emotional person. As like that. Then the learning environment. Remember, we have said everything the learner interacts with is a learning environment. And so we need to create an environment that is safe for the children, environment that is supportive and conducive to learning, a caring community. That means at home and even in the school. The environment should be socially facilitative, physically supportive, safe, emotionally secure, and psychologically enabling. So as much as possible, is not just the school environment. Remember, in CBC, the learning starts where? At home. And this doesn't make you a teacher. Then capacity building. We are saying we are training the teachers the same about values and how they should implement values, the kind of questions they ask, the kind of activities they take learners through. Okay. And whatever we teach should be relevant to the local and global perspective. We need a transformative leadership that is willing to change. And we are saying be monitoring and evaluating through research and learning to see that actually it is taking place. We have some values being developed. Okay. Now, these are the core values we target in CBC. We have the value of love, responsibility, respect, unity, peace, and patriotism. Just go back a little. The area of patriotism, I keep going back to it because you know, if you wanted to find some of the biggest Africans in body size, you'll find them in America. True or false? Huh? So much so that when you go to some boutiques, you hear them telling you, we don't have any American sizes. Yeah. American are big, tall, huge fellas. Why is it that the biggest Africans you are likely to find them in America or in other countries? Have you ever thought about it? Huh? If you go to the coastal areas, the majority of the people there are relatively small in size. True or false? Why? How did the blacks get to America? Slave trade, isn't it? And when the slave masters came, they came looking for the big people, isn't it? Huh? Yes. So the small fellas like us remained behind. That is when the world was run on muscle and power, isn't it? Now the world is moving towards the brains, isn't it? So soon again, if you want the brightest brains, you will soon also find them in the West. True or false? So they are going. Yeah? And we are facilitating them to go, isn't it? So sasa tutakuwa tukingoja. Ile wanatengeneza huko ndio wanatutumia kidogo. Sawa, tuendelee. Social justice, integrity, we have talked about this. Then the issue of community service learning, where we are saying that we want learners to understand that they are members of the community and should endeavor to learn from the community and work to benefit that community. Use their skills for the benefit of the community. If they start early, then we'll not fear that when we give them, make them minister, they'll steal from us. So they should appreciate the importance of collaborating with members, other members. That is why we are even reducing competition, where who is position 1, who is position 2. In fact, when we were growing up, the first question you were asked when you came from school at the end of the term is, what position were you? So, and it might not be like that. So it integrates what you learn in class. You want the learners to reflect on it and to learn from it in terms of what is expected in the community. So when you are teaching them addition, subtraction, percentages, how do they relate it to the community? So they link social development with academic development, or academic development with the social development. Well, what you are learning, you learn it in perspective of how will it help you and the community. Did you hear that most children, when they say they started applying on a summer, they want to do procurement. Yes? They say they want procurement because that is where you make a lot of money. Kemsa way. That is not community service learning. Okay. So community service learning entails balanced emphasis on both students learning and addressing real needs in the community. So that is partly why after I've taught them, I'll give them an assignment which will be put in perspective. For example, if I've taught them how to clean classroom, then I tell them go home and request your mom to allow you to clean the sitting room or to clean the table, depending on the capacity of the learners. Okay? So slowly by slowly like that. And that is where the parent will come in. You know, parents want to run away from their work. But you have to put the learning in perspective. But you will not be being a teacher. You will just be facilitating. If I have taught them how to count things in school, tell them, okay, go home and assist your younger children to help you count the number of plates you have, the number of spoons you have. But you have to agree with the culture. You might go counting cows where people don't count what? Yes. Or children. So, I think then, have you understood it? So, you will find the children, these are the assignments the children will be coming with at home, to put what they are learning in perspective of the community, which is the home and the church and so on. But they'll not be coming home with additional mathematics or additional essays to write or additional, that one they should finish in school. Because we are producing children for society. We are not producing children for exams. So, the learner support programs are programs that are supposed to enable enhanced learning. So, to enhance the competencies of the learner. These include counseling. You know, every school is supposed to have a strong counseling component. So it is not just supposed to be like they see a teacher who can do counseling, and there should be some training. Then sports and games are also very important learner support programs. It is in sports and games that learners learn how to fight for something without giving up. Before the game has ended, there is still hope that you will score, isn't it? Yes? And even when you lose, you know you can play another day. Or when it is in games that you really get frustrated. Like I was a coach of hockey, even up to national level. And you know, when those fellas are young, they fight hard to do what? To win. But you can still fight very hard to win, and you do what? You lose. Then you learn that in life you can work very hard, but you will still do it. Fail. But when you fail, you wake up and start again. And that is how they learn how to form teams, how to work together, and how even to run around with a dangerous hockey stick, and you don't hammer somebody's what? Head, because you are annoyed. Okay. This just says about the importance of sports and games and why you find, for instance, physical education is a compulsory course at senior school all along. So this time there'll be no teachers using PE lessons for mathematics and what? And English. Yes. Then clubs and societies where they learn how to be independent, to run their own programs, and to decide, to talk to each other, and manage each other. Okay. But this component of career guidance is going to be very important, and this is also where parental empowerment and engagement will come in. Where we are saying, after now, for instance, when they are going to senior school, the parent must be working with the teachers to be helping identify the potential of this child, to see whether they are arts people, they are humanities people, or they are STEM people, so that eventually they get placed in their right careers. We are trying to avoid a situation of graduating doctors who don't like looking at patients, or who don't like looking at blood, or people who hate sick people, but they want to proudly say they are doctor, isn't it? Yes. Or engineers who have no respect for human beings. They already know this thing will collapse, isn't it? But they still mix the cement in the wrong way. Yeah, or make poor roads. So we'll want to align, to help learners align their interests, their abilities, their strength, their passion, talents, values, and personality with careers of their choice. You know, parents want to create their juniors. So, nasema nango junior. So if it is, you are a lawyer, you want your child to be a what? A lawyer. Or an engineer, your child to be an engineer. But what is their passion? What is their talent? What is their interest? Then how can we help them learn from each other? So mentorship is learning from those who are more experienced. So we want to facilitate learners to be others' mentors and facilitate them to learn from each other in a better way. So we have such arrangements in the curriculum. Okay. Then the issue of chaplaincy. It is expected, you know, the curriculum takes religious values as very central. So it is hoped that every school will have a chaplain, even occasional one, attached to come and do and guide learners in the matters to do with faith. Yes. You want them to develop spiritually, emotionally, and socially, appreciate religious diversity, and utilize chaplaincy services, apply spiritual guidance for personal development. You know, in Christianity, that's where we have very many varied approaches and understandings. Because there are those of us who are waiting to go to heaven. Heaven is somewhere there. But there are others who are saying they are waiting for heaven to be created down here. Only 400 will go to run the kingdom with Christ. But the rest, our heaven will be here. And we are all Christians, isn't it? Okay. So, lastly is about assessment. So when we assess learners in this curriculum, we look at them being able to demonstrate that they have the knowledge, the skills, and the values and the attitudes that are expected to do certain work. So you don't look at how much they can reproduce in terms of knowledge. You are looking at, yes, they have the knowledge, they have the skills, the values, the attitudes, so that if they are doing something, they are doing it that combined. So we call it, we say you are competent. You are a competent mechanic if you can service the vehicle, but you are doing it with appropriate attitude. If you are servicing my engine and then I come for my vehicle, I find there is grease on my chairs. So now the competence is not. Or you are making my clothes and we have agreed that the wedding is in 2 weeks' time. And then I come on the 2 days before, you have sold the clothes to somebody else. Now the competence is not there. The skill is there, the knowledge is there, but the value and the attitude is not there. Okay. So in competence, you look at the criteria. There are criteria, and what especially related to how that knowledge is applied in daily life. So a learner is said to be competent when they consistently apply knowledge and skills to the standard of performance expected. So this competency is more understood in technical education, where you say want them to make that stool. So the knowledge, the theory they have, the skills of making the stool they have, but the value system, they are doing it with appropriate values. They don't sell your stool to somebody else, and they produce it to the required standard. Okay. So we look at, when we are looking at the competence, when we are assessing whether a learner is competent, you can look at maybe how, to what extent they are accurate if they were measuring something, maybe to what level they are using appropriate method, what is the quality of the product they are giving you, in what time of efficiency, and to what level of coherence it is being done. So you are not looking at how were they better than somebody else. Like if we have been given a stool to make, I don't compare your stool to somebody else's stool. I compare your stool to the standards that were set. So we spend a lot of time setting standards about what do we want to achieve. So if it was about writing a business letter, I don't compare your letter to somebody else. I look at what were the standards of the letter. It was supposed to have this address here, this other address here, this reference here, or this date here, this introduction here, this conclusion here. So those are the standards. Now when I evaluate your business letter, I tell you, you have done it well to this extent, and you have not been able to do this, you need to improve here. Okay. I think this is just still highlights of what you look at in competency assessment. So we are saying in assessment, because this is where parents have been having trouble, because we still have parents who want their children to be compared to others. Yeah. In the current one, we call it norm referenced, is about averages. That how is my child related to compared to others. But in this one is criterion referenced. What criteria are you looking at? In the current is competition. Who is 1, 2, no. But here we are looking at people collaborating and working together to help each other achieve. It is not, if my stool and your stool are all good stools, so what is the problem? Yeah? Why should we compete? You know, in Kenya, we are always competing, isn't it? Especially if you are a driver, even you are on the road, and the minute you show you want to overtake, now the guy, that's when he increases the what? The speed. Even when he doesn't know where you are going. Not, or even a matatu will compete with you as if you are going to take the customer. And that is how we are. We always look for somebody to compete with, someone. Yeah. Then assessment of learning. So we have been looking at how much has this person gained. But now most of the assessment we will be doing, or the teachers are doing, is for learning, meaning you assess in order to assist the learner benefit. So when I give the test, I want to see where is the problem so that I come in and help. Then from being rigid to flexible. Like now, most of the time you find there is multiple choice. Almost all the tests being given in primary are multiple choice, because that's how the KCSE will be. That's why. But in this is, in competency-based, it will be more flexible. Can even assess by observation, by asking the learner verbally. Those who cannot write may give you the answer verbatim, isn't it? And they are still correct. And the answer doesn't have to be in English. Can give you the answer in Kiswahili, and it is correct answer, true or false. Yeah? For instance, we have elevated English to beyond what it should be. So that sometimes you are told you are either categorized as civilized or not civilized, depending on how closely your English comes to that of the Queen. Yes? So, but we are saying a child may, last time I was talking to teachers of a small school in Isli, and this teacher said that one of the problems they have is that they are brought students and they are told this student should be placed in standard 6. And this student is 18 years old. But when they look at their marks and how these students are performing, these are marks of grade 4. So what do you think the teachers were saying? The teachers were saying these children who are really young men should not be placed in grade 7. They should be in grade 4 because of their scores. But when you go in, when you interview them, you find that the children they are talking about are people who have come from Somalia. They were learning in Kisomali. They speak Somali, they speak Arabic, but they don't know English. So you are evaluating them on the basis of what? English. Because they don't understand what you are saying. But if you give them a few months, they adjust very fast. When I was in Somaliland last year, helping develop their curriculum for teacher education, go to their university, they are teaching in their university, they are teaching in Kisomali. All that mathematics and engineering. When it is not Kisomali, there is Arabic. How much English do the Chinese know? And the Japanese? Yeah. So that's why we are saying, is the teacher to get to see how best can I assess this learner. Because you might be assessing him for English when actually the fella is very good in the science. Okay. So then, after talking all that, now what are the implications? This is just a summary. The teachers need to be sensitized and trained. The parents and other stakeholders here, I'm sensitizing you. Then teachers need to be capacity built. They need to be trained actually to go back to what they learned in college. Because we are not teaching new methods. The same methods we are trying to apply, all teachers learned in college. But when they came out of college, they entered a system of lecturing, and they got used to that. So they need to reorient themselves. Otherwise, they have learned about these methods. In certain cases, you may need infrastructure, classrooms for those learners, ICT facilities, and you see that there are subjects that are featuring in the new curriculum that are not in the current. So you'll need teachers for those curriculum, for those subjects. Then you need to redesign parental engagement practices. Like parents, even me included, we appear to agree with the schools that we can only visit our children in school when they decide. Mwalimu unafundisha wapi? No. Nairobi. You know, like my child was in Mboni. So, you can imagine you go there, you are told today is not a what? Visiting day. So you can't see your what? The child. Ile vitu umeleta weka hapa tutampatia. Visiting day is next week. And that is the standard procedure. And we are saying we must redesign parental engagement practices in our schools, where the parents must be in touch with their children, if possible, every day. So if I come to the school, even the school decides whether I can go to see where my daughter sleeps or not. Say, dorms are out of what? Out of bounds. So you don't know how it goes. Then invest in active learning processes, trips, excursions round, yeah. Then monitor and support new changes. You will need to support the homework policies, the learning activities. Yeah, you don't run away. It is the parent who is going to place the learning in perspective. So that parent is now part of the learning of the child. But the parent, you will not be expected to teach mathematics. Don't try it. Even language, you don't write, you will mess. As we used to say, A, B, C, D, E. These days they reach somewhere and you hear they are saying, cock. Or the way you are approaching the mathematics is different from the way the teacher approached. And remember, the teacher is always what? Right, isn't it? Yes. So you don't conflict. But the teachers are supposed to know what exactly can they ask the parents to do. And please do it. Do you know how much money people are spending to get one child? You've heard about it, isn't it? So now that you have children, yeah, reduce your speed for looking for money and also bring up children. Yes. Sasa mtoto mmoja wawili wanakushinda, but you are managing 4 cars and 5 homes across Nairobi. Huh? True or false? Now mtoto mmoja, you don't have time for the child. Parenting style, basically be a good role model. Just be a good role model. Okay? Retooling, okay, it's okay. Increase your participation in the child. Don't criticize the teachers or fight with the teachers, but at least be present, receive the information, see what has been done in that book, what comment the teacher has said, yeah, and respond. In fact, it is a mistake not to have time for your children every day if they are still with you. Don't be too busy not to have time for the what? For the kids. And don't take them on weekends to drinking places. They are playing in that corner there, and you are drinking here. What are you doing? You are training, isn't it? Yes. Then you can also be support in resource mobilization for the school. If you are able to get computers, if you are able to get any learning material, Or if you can be a resource person of any kind, you can even, like now, spiritual guidance, you can go talk to the children about. Not everybody understands the Bible. Huh? Guidance. And then promote inclusive practices where you encourage everybody. So, shifting the mindset to nurturing every learner's potential. Don't compare your children that so and so is doing very well in mathematics. How come you are not getting it? Yeah? You might find, so long as they are trying their best. And children still try very hard and they don't get it. True or false? So you see them, they have worked very hard. They have tried, but they still haven't got it. Yours is to find out where is their potential. So everything they do, let them do it very well. And then eventually they'll get to their potential. So we are training all the others to understand the new pedagogies, accept the new assessment methods, then accept that we have less homework activities, yeah? And whatever activities are given are supposed to be age appropriate. The issue of book policy, we're just saying government approves 6 books, but for public schools they supply only one of them, but for other schools they may buy any of the other 6 approved books for use. Then let your children learn how to use the digital devices, the phones, the tablets, the computers as much as possible. And when they are doing it with their guidance, remember in psychology we say children always go back to what they were taught by their teachers and parents when they were young. The Bible says that, isn't it? When they reach adolescence, they look like they are rebelling. But eventually they always go back to what their teachers did, what taught them, and what their parents taught them. So if you train them well on how to use the ICT and the devices well, then you'll have no fear that they'll not use them well. So we are saying, as much as possible, keep communication with the school for the benefit of the child. I think this is in conclusion, but I just wanted to show you a sample report form you might see that is proposed that you'll be getting for your children at the end of the year. There's a Word document I had opened there. Yeah, there. Yeah, see now there. So the report might look like that, with general information about the year, the child. Then scroll down a little. Then these have told these are performance levels. That there's the level of the first level is level 3, meeting expectations based on the standards, then exceeding expectations, approaching expectation, or below expectation. Those will be levels of performance. These are the levels that cut across our curricula. Then, so you find a child saying in mathematics, they were dealing with numbers or measurement or geometry. So it will be there, what were they working on? It's not just marks. So this time they were looking at numbers, or they were looking at measurement. They were looking at geometry. So what was the performance level of the child? Then what is the teacher's statement on the learner's performance? So the teacher will make a statement on numbers, will make a statement on measurement, will make a statement on geometry. So if the learner is below expectation, the teacher should say what the challenge the learner has and how the learner can be assisted. Okay? So it will not be a comment like fair, good, excellent. No. You make a statement that says John needs to practice more on digits, or something like that. That makes sense to the child, and it will also make sense to a parent who might read the report. Are you getting it? So you will not be getting how did he rank alongside others, but there'll be advice for you on what you need to do to enable the child to perform better. So it's like that. This is the kind of report you will get for your child at the end of the year. Otherwise, in between the year, there'll just be formative assessments, cuts of, and also similar comments. I think basically, I anticipated the kind of information you would want to have, and I've given to the best I was able to, unless there is a clarification you need regarding something.
Thank you so very much. Highly appreciated. I want to invite Dr. Joy to come and take us through how we can ask our questions. Just in a moment.
All right. Good afternoon, church. Maybe you can just stand, stretch, then sit down. I'm taking advantage of being a physical education teacher. All right. Good job. Just stretch a bit. Look at the person behind you and smile. That is how we greet one another nowadays. And have your seats. All right, so get your phone. We are now getting to the next segment of asking questions. And we want to do this digitally. And I'd want you to go to that site, www.menti.com. Very quickly log in as we allow our speaker to catch his breath and take some water. Right? www.menti.com. Are we all there? All right. There'll be a prompt for you to enter. Please enter the code. Right? Let's enter the code. Two 56039 0. Then you click submit. And then you'll be prompted to please ask your question here. Just click on Open Q&A. I know we have very many questions for our speaker, and I would like you to very quickly, in 2 minutes maximum, just type your question. Very clearly. And Ms. Nema is receiving all your questions as you click submit. Ms. Nema, you can come closer now so that you can ask the questions to our speaker. Are we successful? All right. Once you type your question, just click submit and we will have them all here. How many of us have sent their question? Ms. Nema will guide us through the questions.
All right, Mr. Nengo, the first question here says, there has been instances, especially for grade 4, where workbooks and textbooks are not available. Does this indicate lack of readiness or a clear pathway for the curriculum? There has been instances, especially for grade 4, where workbooks and textbooks are not available. Does this indicate lack of readiness or a clear pathway for the curriculum? Do I ask the next one?
So, do I answer that first? Or?
Okay, it's okay.
Now, like I mentioned, the government approves 6 books. So for grade 4, all of them are ready. Grade 1, 2, 3, 4, even for grade 5, they are ready. Grade 6, publishers are developing. But the government distributes 1 book for each of the best book to each of the primary schools, public. But the private schools can buy any of their choice. So workbooks are normally developed as additional materials by publishers. And I don't think there are any that have been approved yet. Because they have not been brought for evaluation, but the textbooks are there. And each textbook has a teacher's guide that the teacher uses. So I don't think there is a problem with the books, unless maybe the schools have just not bought.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. The next question, how do you ensure equity among children of different backgrounds? For example, those who cannot access tablets. How do you ensure equity among children of different backgrounds? For example, those who cannot access tablets.
I think basically we try to avail education in various media. We have radio, we have TV, we have computers, tablets, phones. So many parents have been using their smartphones, sharing with the children. But as it is, maybe it is not possible for everybody to have. But what is there is that you have tried to supply on as much media as possible. Yeah. So, yeah.
Just out of experience, is that the reason why some children are coming home and telling their parents, teacher said I should go to school with a phone?
I don't think there's a situation where a teacher should ask learners to go with a phone to school. Just saying, like when we had COVID and children were learning at home, the parents could make their phone available for them to use to access online lessons. Okay. So, like Safaricom, delivers a lot of content through phone. So the child may not have their individual phone. So when they are at home in the evening, they can access content using their parents' phone. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
The next question, what happens when a child is strong in both sciences and arts, e.g. math, but also musical? How will they know which path to take at senior secondary?
You know, this is where we said a lot of career guidance and mentorship with a lot of guest speakers and so on. Let the child be exposed thoroughly until they decide where to go. Because a child can be good all around, but unless you expose them to the real situation, like if he's good in sciences, he can be a doctor, he can be an engineer, he can be an accountant, whatever. But when you expose them now to the real situation to see, this is what an engineer does, this is what a doctor does, and this is what, and then they'll eventually get to see. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Does CBC sometimes overstretch parental engagement by giving projects that are too of doing it?
Yeah, that has been the complaint that this CBC is giving parents too much. It's only that maybe the parents have not been participating at all. So now when it is coming, it looks so that we adjust as we move on. Yes. But it's only that now parents are being required to play a much more focused role. So.
All right, that was the last question. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I think we should give a better clap than that. Okay, we are not done yet, because I would like to get your feedback through the same Menti. Okay. Would like to evaluate our activities so that we know whether we need to focus on something else. I think we can stop the questions. We've actually seen there are close to 30, but we look for a way of how to get this answered and maybe channeled through another forum because of time, but we really thank you for your time. So some teachers seem to have been trained that a child cannot exceed expectations. So the report ends up having met expectations all through. Not helpful. Is there some guidance for the scoring, for that scoring?
Meeting expectations just means you have achieved to the extent we required. So exceeding expectations would mean they have done something beyond that. But it must be in a way that is not already predetermined. Otherwise, it now becomes part of the criteria. So, so long as the teacher makes an appropriate comment, about, we are interested in the child meeting expectation. But if he goes beyond in a way that you had not known, he would go beyond that way. Then,
okay. Yes. Just wait a few more. Elaborate on what happened to the first bunch who will join junior school, noting that they will join with the current class 6?
Now that is ministry policy, but I think the systems are being prepared to receive them. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's another concern. My observations is that activities within the CBC curriculum reduce as they move up the grades. Is this consistent with the expectations of the curriculum?
No, in lower grades, children learn through play. Yeah, but as we move up, definitely we'll have a bit more content. Like in preschool and grade 1 to 3, they are basically learning through activities. But as we move up, you now need to introduce a bit more and more of content. Yes.
What happens if a child chooses one path and realizes it's not the one? Can they change, or is it at what point is it too late to change to another track?
Personally, we are saying, not personally, we are saying that when they are in junior secondary school, they should be very thoroughly exposed. It's not just theoretically, like as much as possible, they really get to know that is not just about the marks they are getting or the grades, but they understand what each of these careers imply, and see whether they really want to live their life that way. So, but should they fail, they want to go back, I don't think it will be too late. Yeah, because this time is not year-based. So if a child decides to go back and continue, start afresh, there is no problem.
So they can repeat, they can go back to...
They can do what? Redirect. Yes.
Okay. It is a good curriculum, but as schools where we need the kids to practice, do we have workshops ready for our kids to practice?
But I believe schools are preparing. Like one reason junior secondary was located to secondary school is because secondary schools already have laboratories, libraries, and so on. But if we were to locate junior secondary to primary school, then we would have a challenge of those facilities. So can have them shared there.
Maybe just last one before you sit down. What happens to a child who cannot get assistance from a parent? Maybe this child has a parent who gets home late, or maybe does not have any, according to the CBC parents, they probably don't have any exposure to this kind of information.
So we have been talking about the teachers understanding their learners and the learner's environment. So you don't require of a learner something that you already know may not get. Even something like a newspaper cutting. Discover some parents don't even buy newspapers. So if you ask for a newspaper cutting, and you know this child might not get, so there should be alternatives. Yeah.
Maybe they live with their grandmother who may not.
Yes, now you give that child a different kind of assignment or a task.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. I can see we still have more questions coming in, but maybe we can move to the feedback session. So let's just go to... Okay. So are we back to the Menti? We would really want you to give us feedback so that we know how to focus other upcoming events. Sorry, it's also part of CBC. I'm also learning how to navigate through. What can you see from your end? Is it still reading? Please ask. Okay, now it comes to your feedback is important to us. Can you see that screen? Please indicate your level of agreement. Please go ahead and answer those questions. Okay. All right. Thank you. I can see we have quite a lot of feedback coming in. One last minute. Right. Thank you. I will now move away from that and to my last request. Please share suggestions. Here you can also give comments that we will all channel these comments to our presenter. Suggestions and comments. Can you see that screen? I will not give up. Can you see suggestions? Please do. That's the last request that I have as I ask Mwalimu to now come forth.
Thank you so much. I want to give this opportunity to Ms. Tina. She's the leader of the Education Mountain. Let's welcome her as she comes to close and give a vote of thanks.
Good afternoon once again. I believe it was a productive, insightful, sometimes matters education don't have the hype and the excitement, so you're using more of your listening and your thinking and your focus. And I believe that is what has engaged you for this time that we have been here. I want to thank the pastors for the opportunity to even have this presentation. I thank the leadership in the church for enabling this to happen. I also thank our speaker. Thank you so much, Mr. Nengo. Let's appreciate that is deep research, hours and hours, years and years that it has taken to produce this. We are so grateful for what it has been. And I would ask us just to stand up and let us pray. Even as we are dismissed, we have stayed in a relatively hot place. We have water as you go back towards the back of the sanctuary. There is water. Please pick a bottle and, as Pastor Kala says, wet your whistle. Okay, so let's pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you, we bless you, we honor you. We thank you that we have received knowledge, and we thank you for the wisdom to apply this knowledge, even as we nurture our children, as we nurture children in our communities, as we help support our government to be able to bring forth a good curriculum that will be able to help this nation. Father, we thank you for your wisdom upon us this afternoon and the rest of our days. Even as we depart, we thank you that the blood of Jesus covers us and we receive clear passages to our dwelling places. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you so much for your patience, for pushing through the extra mile. God bless you.